Okay, so
Mario Sunshine! Woohoo!
what he said was, until recently, the only 3D Mario game that I hadn't played at least a few hours of. I own a GameCube as well, but copies are incredibly expensive nowadays, costing more than your average new release, so I'd never gotten around to playing it. I'd heard a lot about it being a rather divisive title amongst Mario fans though, so when the 3D All-Stars collection was announced, you can probably guess which one of the three games included I was keenest to boot up first. And regardless of whatever I or anyone else thinks of it, you can understand why it's not the most universally beloved of Mario's adventures. It is rather different. For a kickoff, the story premise is a little unique for the series, seeing Mario, Peach and a group of Toads heading to the exotic Delfino Island for a relaxing getaway. But Mario gets wrongly accused of vandalizing and polluting the island, so is put on trial, declared guilty, and is essentially put on probation to make up for the mess and collect Power Stars all over Delfino to bring the island back to its former glory. I mean, hey, at least Peach didn't get kidnapped for a change. Never mind. This is also the only main entry Mario thus far to feature voice acting in cutscenes, and it's not bad either when the music isn't drowning the dialogue out.
Yeah, Papa told me all about it.
What? I can't hear you over the... What? The most notable thing about the story is that it confines the action to just a single location. You still jump through a level portal a la 64, but they only take you to different parts of Delfino. And quick note, it's a little irritating that you can't exit the Star Select screen once you've entered a portal. But anyway, this approach to exploration didn't entirely work for me, because even though the graphics do hold up, most of the locations look very similar. There's no sense of anticipation as to what a new level will be like because they're a bit much of a much visually. I like that you can see different locations on the outskirts of other levels, and Isle Delfino is a memorable hub, but few locales immediately stand out from the others. Taking place in one interconnected area is just one of the ways Mario Sunshine stands out from the other games, the most obvious being the inclusion of F.L.U.D. This is a robot who sits on Mario's back and can shoot jets of water out of it. You can change the nozzle to either aim directly ahead of you or to act as a jetpack, and later on you unlock nozzles that will propel you either forwards or upwards. This is Sunshine's big gimmick and what sets it apart from the other Mario games. There's no power-ups to use here, all of the bosses require using the F.L.U.D in some way or another, and you'll be using it extensively throughout. It's a good thing then that it works very well. I really like using it to hover about, and probably my favorite thing to do is squirt some water in front of me and dive into it, slide along, then jump back up. Smooth. This game also served as the introduction to playing as Yoshi, although he's not really used that much. But F.L.U.D does make for a good centerpiece for this game, although ultimately this does remain a typical Mario platformer. You'll be doing all the things that have made for some beloved classics both before and after Sunshine's release. But in this game, the level design does not cater to Mario's abilities nearly as well as it has done. I'm not sure if Mario himself is part of the issue, as the other two games in this collection control and triple jump the same, although pulling off the reverse flip jump does feel a bit more awkward to do here. Then again, maybe that's because the levels are a bit too claustrophobic for comfort. Take this level for example, this should be an easy bit to pull off, but you're so boxed in that it's way too hard to judge your aiming of the jump. It's so awkward and finicky, it becomes so much more frustrating than it really ought to. But being in enclosed spaces is only half the issue because you do spend most of the game outdoors. Mario has always been an inherently agile character, leaping and running across courses, and ever since making the transition from side-scrollers to 3D environments, Nintendo has usually given players the space to properly stretch their platforming abilities. This game, on the other hand, has incredibly narrow platforms to land on, which can be really awkward and lead to Mario consistently running off edges as soon as he lands. Using the F.L.U.D. does help to slow you down and land easier, but it's really not ideal. And of all the Mario games not to feature the flag checkpoint, it's this one that's in dire need of it. It's actually very difficult to die in this game. There's usually a body of water below you that'll soften your fall. Okay, that sounds like a good thing, but it's a real pain because you'll be scaling some pretty tall environments, so when you fall, which is very easy to do like I said, it becomes a chore to have to keep climbing back up to where you were. It's not challenging, it's just a monotonous inconvenience. Now occasionally the game will take F.L.U.D. away from you and whisk you off to a hellish level in which you'll have to rely on more conventional platforming abilities. But the narrow pathways are still very much intact, and so I didn't find many of these that fun either, especially as these were designed to be difficult. Also, and I'm not sure if this has anything to do with my controller, but a couple of times I swear I pressed the jump button and the game didn't respond, meaning I fell to yet another death. It really lacks the fluidity of the other Mario games, making simple jumps can at times feel like more than a task than it really ought to. And the more I progress through this game, and I really hate to say this, I got bored. The finickiness of the level design and Mario's moveset eventually left me jaded to the whole experience. Which is a shame, because there are some enjoyable levels. I really like exploring Isle Delfino, the F.L.U.D. is very fun to use, and the first few hours left me more indifferent, occasionally positive even, than agitated. But I eventually just found myself annoyed with it. The stages lacked a constant stream of imagination, with only the odd sense of variety keeping things interesting. It has its moments, a solid few to be fair, and the classic Mario charm does make me feel bad for being so harsh on it. But Nintendo has always been a company to put gameplay and fun before anything else. So when the controls feel this needlessly fussy and the levels feel that uninteresting after a while, I found myself losing patience with it. I know Mario Sunshine has as many fans as it does detractors, but for me, having played a good chunk of all the 3D Mario games to date, I can comfortably say that I found this to be the weakest one. Needless to say, this is one holiday I won't be booking another visit to.